climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness!
A 7-game matinee for Thirsty Thursday. Here we are. I'm joined by my good friends, Draft Sheet and Stevers. My new friend Stevers, a new addition, great addition to the team. The only bad thing is he's a fan of Cleveland and the Guardians, the Browns, probably the Cavaliers, maybe some ugly, soccer team in there. All kidding aside, we are not going to debate the best or the worst cities on this program, because that debate in Discord the other day was actually absolutely wild. None of you hit on the absolute worst cities in the United States. As someone who spent time on the southwest border, I can tell you are dead wrong if you're thinking that Cleveland or Chicago are anywhere near the bottom of the pack. But we're going to get right into this. I'm going to introduce my guys here first, see how Draft Sheet is doing on this Thursday afternoon. DC, it's good to be with you. I think it's been a little while since I've been hosting a show or you've been on, and I'm excited, man. It's just so nice to see your face. I'm sure you're going to have some hot takes. I think we're going to agree on pitching here today, which is, I'm just always excited to see how that shakes out. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, yeah. And you never know when you and I are on the show if we're going to agree or not. Sometimes it's strong agreement, sometimes the other way. But I take it maybe you've had a chance to peruse my content, and maybe we are on the same page today. So I do like this slate, 7-gamer, early, really no late slate to speak of. So this is kind of what we got, early start today. I think it's a fun one though. I think potentially a profitable one for the RPS community, for those people watching the show, hopefully for us on the show as well. So excited to break it down with you two guys.
Yeah, 7 games. You got 3 games tonight, smaller prize pools. Always a little bit of edge on the 3-gamer. You can stack against your pitcher, do mini stacks against your pitcher that a lot of people don't do. But the main one with the bulk of the prizes and the bulk of the excitement and some really good matchups, as you point out, is this 7-gamer. Starts a little early, 12:20 in the afternoon, but that's why we're here early to go through it for you. Stevers, how do you pronounce the name, first of all? And then second of all, how are you doing on this Thursday? How is the great city of Cleveland, Ohio?
Oh, it's great, man. The weather's great. It's Stevers, by the way.
Stevers, perfect.
Joey Work just insists on getting it wrong. I think he does it on purpose. But, it's I love 7-game slates. I think this is going to be a cool one. I've just had better success with smaller slates, 6, 7, 8 games, rather than the big 12 and 13, 14-game slates. I'm excited to be on with you guys to break this one down. I've been on all morning on Saber, trying to narrow in pitchers. I tell you, I've been struggling with pitchers lately. I'm really confident with the bats I've been picking, with the stacks and even the one-offs. But man, I've just been missing left and right the last 3 or 4 days with pitching. I mean, I'm anxious to get your guys' takes on pitching today. Maybe you guys can help me out a little bit and steer me in the right direction, because it's been pretty brutal.
I'll say, pitching hasn't been great for me. It was better last night, but we've seen a ton of runs scored over the last 2 or 3 days, especially 2 days ago. I mentioned it yesterday on the premium show, but I think it was like the 3rd most runs scored in a day of baseball in the last 10 years, something like that. And then yesterday, kind of saw more of the same, a bunch of runs, not nearly to that extent, but heard some rumors from, baseball nerds on Twitter that maybe the old baseballs, the juice baseballs, could potentially be back in play. We've seen MLB do this a number of times, so I don't know. It's probably nothing, but if the runs keep coming like they have been, we might have to make some sort of adjustment.
I saw some of that too with the baseballs. I'm not buying into it, but
probably not. But yeah, you never know.
The pitching's just been rough, man, hasn't it? I mean, I don't know. 2 days. I'm still here. We are 2 days later, and I'm still pissed at myself for not playing Logan Allen at 7,700 2 days ago. I went Bailey over and Woo that day and got a combined 10 fantasy points. And then yesterday I went to Rodon and Yarborough. So So the last 2 days, I've stacked up the Braves, and we all know how expensive the Braves are. If you want to play 1 through 5 Braves, or if you want to get even 3 of those top 5 hitters in the Braves lineup, you got to find a way to get down in pitching, and going down to these guys like Yarborough and Wu has really cost me. Like I said, I'm anxious to get your guys' takes on pitching today, because that's really what I'm focused on today. If I can get this pitching right, I'm confident that I can pick the right hitters. I've been doing well in that area, but man, am I just laying an egg when it comes to picking pitching in the last 3 or 4 days.
The volatility of the pitching, it's kind of an ebb and flow, right? Earlier in the season, there was definitely a lot of volatility, a lot of volatility with the pitching. Then it seemed like we got on a track where, okay, you could trust the studs, and every now and then a lower price guy would pop out. And then now we're back to the last 7-10 days where if you're stacking against the highly owned pitchers, you're probably pretty profitable over the last 7 to 10 days. And when you look at, and Wu, for example, is the guy who hurt a lot of people the other night. And when you look at it, at least when I looked at that slate, you're concerned because, hey, he's been consistent. There was not a lot of guys on that slate that you felt comfortable about. But if you think about it in a vacuum and take that out and say, wait a second, this guy has 6 major league starts. He's going to be 40% owned on a 14-game slate. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go. So I couldn't do it, but I understand that he looked very attractive. And here today, we're going to have some pitchers that have been absolutely outstanding. We're going to talk about Blake Snell. We're going to talk about Spencer Strider. We're going to talk about all the pitchers and the 7 games here. But first, hit the like button if you haven't already done so. I'm sure the guys and girls that watch us regularly, I'm talking to you, Jacob. Jake, good to see you too. Brittany, what's going on? I'm sure you all hit the like. If you are new, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Check us out at runpuresports.com. All sports, one price. We kill every sport, every sport. Summer League, NBA, F1 racing. We've got guys that are covering that full time. League of Legends, our guy Captain, not only does he do outstanding MLB projections, he's been really good on pitching, Stevers. So if you're not looking at his pitching projections, he's been outstanding so far this year. runpuresports.com. But with that, DC, let's get it started. Give us an overview of the pitching here, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, on DK at least, I think it's kind of split into 2 groups. I think there are a bunch of pretty good options up top, and then for whatever reason, Michael Lorenzen sitting down there at 5,500. I don't really know why he's so cheap. I played him in this last start. Core play for me against Seattle was awesome. 29 DraftKings points in that one. He's gone now 11 and 2/3 innings without giving up an earned run. 2 pretty good matchups, but he's got another one today against Kansas City. So when I'm looking at this DraftKings slate, he kind of seems like a free square to me. You know, you never know if it's going to work out like that, obviously. Things can go wrong for any pitcher, including, Michael Lorenzen. He's not some ace or something like that, but yeah, 5,500 for him. He was honestly kind of the first guy I plugged in on DraftKings, and then I went back to the top to figure out where I want to go from there. I do think there are several good options. Of course, Spencer Strider headlines a bunch. I think he always does. He's the best fantasy pitcher in the league right now. The strikeouts are there like pretty much every start, right? Even when he runs into a couple hiccups, a couple bumps in the road, like he did last start against Chicago where he gave up 5 earned runs, he still gets the 10 strikeouts across 6 innings, no walks. Strikeouts in his last 5 games, 10, 11, 9, 10, and 9. It's just, it's one of the more bankable things of any pitcher in baseball. Spencer Strider strikeouts. I think they'll be there again here today in Atlanta. It's not, ideal pitching conditions, super hot, humid, wind blowing out. It is going to be, the ball's going to be flying in Atlanta today. There's no question about that. But it doesn't matter when you can throw your fastball right past people, right? It doesn't matter what the ball's going to do on impact if you can generate the whiffs, which I think he will. I know it's not a perfect matchup, not a perfect environment, but I still think Strider is going to approach or exceed double-digit strikeouts today. And with Lorenzen, you can certainly pair the 2. Now, if you need the savings, right, if you're trying to fit in a certain stack that's expensive, I don't think you have to play Spencer Strider. 12.6K, he's not cheap. I talked about, if you want to pick nits in him, the matchup, pitching environment aren't perfect. And there are other good options. I like Pablo Lopez in Seattle. We saw Kenta Maeda pitch really well against him yesterday. Blake Snell has been absolutely on fire. I've talked a lot about him every show. He goes through these streaks. When he finds it, he finds it, and he can, run this streak out for the rest of the year. Just look at the game log. It's absolutely ridiculous for Blake Snell right now. He's pitching on a higher level even than Spencer Strider is. I don't, necessarily expect him to keep it up forever, but right now he's on fire. Not a great matchup against the Blue Jays. I get it, but it hasn't mattered for Snell recently, so I think he's interesting. And then the other guy I'm really looking at is Corbin Burns, who has turned it around a little bit recently. He kind of struggled at the start of the year. This last start, though, I did have the opportunity to watch that entire start in Cincinnati. He looked ridiculous in that start, just absolutely untouchable. Tough place to pitch as well. 13 strikeouts in that one. He debuted a new sweeper that he's never used before. I don't know if that will stick for this start, but some interesting stuff going on with Corbin Burns. I believe that was his highest strikeout game of the entire year, and he looked every bit the part of those 13 strikeouts. The Reds could absolutely not touch him. If he looks like that again today, he'll mow down this Phillies team. There's no question about it. Of course, there's could be regression, and maybe he won't have his great stuff, but man, he looked awesome there to the point where I've got to consider him at 8,500 on DraftKings. So those are really my four guys. Lorenzen down at the bottom and then at the top, Strider, Lopez, and Corbin Burns. Blake Snell as well, so I guess five guys.
And if you're using Run Pure Sports projections, if you used them last night, you would have been heavy on Yu Darvish and heavy on Eduardo Rodriguez. You mentioned Michael Lorenzen. Sneak peek if you're using – if you're on the fence about joining, I will tell you, if you're using our projections, Michael Lorenzen is going to be one of your favorite pitchers today. So for me, I'm doing multi-entry as I almost always do. There are three guys that I'm going to have about the same exposure to: Spencer Strider, Pablo Lopez, and Michael Lorenzen. Those are basically the three horses I'm running with for the most part. I am going to have some Snell, but I am going to tell you that I'm also going to stack up Toronto in multi-entry because as good as Snell has been, he's got a batted ball in play average against of like 180 over the last month, 5 weeks, stranding 98% of runners on base. I've watched him pitch some of these games. In particular, I think it was a game against the Mets in San Diego. Very, very lucky some of these games. He's getting runners on. He's been able to keep them from scoring. At some point, that's going to end. The reason why I'm not fully in on Toronto is because of how bad they've been against left-handed pitching. They don't really strike out a ton. It's a little bit higher, maybe 24, 25%, but they also don't do much when they put the ball in play. A couple other guys, so I'll have some Snell. A couple other guys I'm going to have that I'm interested in. Andrew Abbott against the Giants. No one's going to play him. He's going to be lower owned. I still think he's got good stuff. He was due for regression. We've seen that come out. But I think 10, 15% of him is fine. And then Taijuan Walker with a 2K price drop. This is a guy that I like to play when he's cheap and he isn't going to be popular, so I have some shares ahead. Stevers, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts on DC's pitching takes? Do you see anything different on this slate?
No, I'm pretty much in lockstep with you guys. I think you got to love Strider at the top. I mean, the fastball slider combination is elite. He's always a candidate for double-digit strikeouts, which we're always hunting the strikeouts, right? It's an 8.5K prop. I was a little bit nervous to go down to Michael Lorenzen, but I want to so bad. And now we have no Bobby Witt in the lineup, right? So that's definitely an upgrade. He's a phenomenal hitter. Love Pablo Lopez. So I'm right there with you guys. Pablo Lopez has been amazing. The one thing that concerns me about him, and don't get me wrong, he will be in my pitching pool. I will probably be overweight on him. I'm still running a lot of Saber. The thing that makes me nervous about Pablo is that he likes to work in the top of the zone. When he throws that fastball down in the zone, it just seems to get hammered, and he's got a good fastball. Don't get me wrong. It's a good fastball, but I don't consider it an elite fastball. When it's jumping out of his hand and getting on hitters quickly, he's extremely successful in the top of the zone and even above that. But when it's not, like for instance, 2 starts ago, he was at home against Kansas City and he just threw a phenomenal game. It was a complete game shutout. It was a 4-hitter. He didn't walk anybody. I think he struck out a dozen. He went for 50. I think he went for 50 DK points. But then he goes to Oakland, his last start. Good pitcher's park. And the ball's just not jumping out of his hand. And I know we like to tease the A's a lot about being a AAA team and about, how they're really bad. But these are still major league hitters that the A's are holding. And when the fastball's not popping out of Pablo's hand and you're working in the top of the zone like that, it's a dangerous way to make a living. And I'm not trying to say he makes me nervous at all. Like I said, I'll have plenty of him. But he's not my favorite today. I'm going to play a lot of Strider. I'm definitely going to be overweight on Corbin Burns today. I kind of shy away from playing a guy after a ceiling game, which he just had. And DC was right about it being his highest strikeout total of the year. He had 13. And I looked a little bit ago, and if I remember correctly, that's the first time he's top 10 Ks this year. I might be wrong about that. I'll have to look again. But yeah, he looked so dominant against Cincinnati, and I think he pitches well again today. DC pointed out that he rolled out that new pitch, that sweeper or whatever that is, and it just looked nasty. I mean, 13 Ks is so impressive. And like I said, I don't normally like to play a guy off of a ceiling game, but I just think he's in a good spot. Nothing about Philadelphia really scares me. They have some lefty power, absolutely. Everybody knows about Schwarber and Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper doesn't have a lot of power. At least he's not showing a lot of it. But I'll have a lot of Strider. I'll have Pablo. I like Blake Snell a lot. It's hard not to like Blake Snell at 9K, right? I'm probably going to go to more Snell than Strider simply because – and it doesn't really have anything to do with Spencer Strider. It has to do with the 12.6K I have to pay for him. I have some stacks that I like today that are a little expensive. Mets bats are getting a little expensive. The Padres bats are always expensive. So I may go to more Snell and Burns and kind of stay off of that 12.6 from Strider today. Like I said, the pitching's been brutal for me. I've just been swinging and missing left and right. So I want to go up top and down low to Lorenzen. I'm a little reluctant to do it. So I may just stay in the middle here and go Snell Burns or Snell Abbott and stay here in this, this 8 to 9K range rather than going down to Lorenzen, just simply because I'm really trying to dial in pitching today. I just don't want to take the risk down there. Not that Kansas City scares me at all. It's just, I'm just really trying to dial in the pitching today. I just hope I blow it up with pitching and I actually struggle with a hitting stack for a change. It'd be a nice change, I guess.
Well, I mean, I will say this on the Corbin Burns take. I'm just going to be lower on him. I actually like Philly a little bit here. Stever, same way. I am a guy that doesn't like to play many pitchers off of huge ceiling games because in that last start, almost everything went perfect for him. This is a guy who's been a bit volatile. He's been a little bit more wild than we've seen him in the past. And if things don't go perfect, it can unwind in a hurry. So we'll see. We'll move into the games, though. 7 games. We get started right out of the gate with the early start right here in Atlanta, Georgia. It is warming up. It's going to get into the mid-90s by the middle of the afternoon. The Diamondbacks at the Atlanta Braves. Zach Gallen against Spencer Strider. Braves with a little over 5 implied run total, and the Diamondbacks 3.6. Of course, DC, Diamondbacks have had low run totals the first 2 nights here. It hasn't stopped them from putting runs on the board. They have seemingly come to life during their visit to Atlanta, which you can expect when people are coming in to play the Braves. This is now a team that you figure teams are going to get up for, but getaway day, noon start. Atlanta's a fun place to hang out at night. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I don't know. If I was facing Spencer Strider at noon the next day, I don't know if I'd be hitting the Atlanta clubs myself, but maybe the Diamondbacks.
It's not like you're the bastion of judgment here. I mean, it's not like you're the guy that would say, "Oh, I've got a lot to do tomorrow. I'm going to be good and go to bed early."
Yeah, but Spencer Strider, 100-mile-per-hour fastballs might get me in bed early. We'll see. No, I mean, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if the Diamondbacks came out and had another good offensive game. It's been 2 in a row, extremely favorable hitting conditions like we talked about. But I do lean the Strider side here. Obviously talked about him. I do think he's going to get his strikeouts. And, I think you want some Spencer Strider in your life today. I'm not going to go to the Diamondbacks if you did. The left-handed power, Corbin Carroll, I think looks like a good play to me. But I wouldn't go crazy. I think, if you want to pick a one-off or two against him, if you're not using him, I think that makes some sense. But I'd be surprised if the Diamondbacks stack gets there in the end. Braves side, I think, is interesting. They're going to be lower owned today. I think that's pretty clear. People are going to see Zach Gallen and shy away. Man, we've seen the Braves plenty of times this year and over the last couple of years just absolutely bomb, pitchers who, the majority of DFS players avoid the Braves against. Joe Ryan comes to mind, right? He's had a fantastic season. What did he give up, like 3 home runs with the first 4 batters, something like that against the Braves? They just absolutely jumped on him. It could happen to Zach Gallen too. Like, this Braves team can do it to literally anybody. So I do think if you're playing a lot of lineups, I'm just playing one on each side today, so I'm not playing the Braves. But if I was MMEing like I have been over the last week or so, I would absolutely have, be over the field on the Braves. I assume they're going to be relatively low owned. With Lorenzen on the slate on DraftKings, you can definitely fit them in. And I don't think it's the most likely thing, but when the Braves go off, it's just an absolute bonanza, and you oftentimes kind of need them. And it wouldn't shock me to see them do that here today. So if I'm going to the Braves, I'm probably stacking it up, right, and hoping that they kind of come through as a team after a little bit of a down game yesterday.
No Atlanta for the guy that plays the Braves seemingly almost every day of late. Hey,
that's a good sign that they're gonna nuke for you guys. So.
Stevers, for me, seems like this is a day the Braves break out. Zach Gallen, very, very stark home road splits. He's been a Cy Young candidate at home. He's been a DFA candidate on the road for most of the season. It's a good get-right spot for the Braves, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
So you notice none of us mentioned Zach Gallen when we broke down the pitching, right?
Yep.
It's pretty common when any pitcher facing the Braves. Just nobody wants to pitch against the Braves, and I don't blame them. You could have went to Ryan Nelson yesterday, who threw really well against the Braves. I think he only struck out 4, but still, anytime you can hold the Braves to just 1 hit through 5 innings or whatever it was. I think people are going to – I'm with DC. I think the Braves are going to be low-owned here. I think people are just going to shy away from this game in general. I mean, nobody's going to want to play Arizona bats against Strider. Nobody's going to want to play Braves bats against Gallen. I don't want to say anybody, but it is going to keep the ownership down because Gallen's a stud. I like him a lot normally. He is much more successful at home than he is on the road. I do think the Braves will be lower owned than normal. So how much lower owned is lower than normal? Normally we're seeing the Braves. I mean, we're seeing Acuna at 40, 50%. You're seeing Olsen at 25 to 35%. When I play the Braves, I like to play up top. I like to play 1 through 5, or I play 1 through 4. So just in general, I like to punt at catcher a lot. It's just a strategy that I've had success with. So when I stack the Braves, I don't play Murphy a lot. Today, we get Travis d'Arnaud. At least I think I saw that right? We don't get Murphy, we get d'Arnaud today. I like to play 1 through 4 in the Braves, and then I go to one of the outfielders, either Ozuna, Rosario, or Harris. A lot of people like to try and get the lower ownership and try and stay in the bottom of that Braves order. And I don't like that strategy. I haven't had much success with it. I've tried it several times. But just in general, this game, I'm just going to try and stay away from this game. I'm not going to stack the Braves today. I know you said that DC likes to stack the Braves. It seems like every day he stacks them, but that's been me lately. I've stacked the Braves the last 2 nights, and the night before last, I had a lot of success, even though my pitching crumbled. And last night, we know what happened last night. They had 2 solo home runs from Riley and Ozuna, and that was pretty much it. But I'm pretty much staying away from this game. There are other places that I'd like to be as far as hitters. The Strider, of course, I'm going to play. I will have no Gallen today. Like you pointed out, JT, he's much better at home. It's a good bounce back spot for the Braves. Maybe I should get on some Braves. Their ownership will be down, and maybe it's a chance for them to break out. But I just won't be there today.
Well, I feel badly for you guys. I will wave at you from the top of the standings today because I feel pretty confident in a Braves breakout. But we'll move on. Stevers, we'll stay with you. San Francisco at Cincinnati in Cincinnati, the Great American Ballpark, small park, what have you. Cincinnati 4.9 implied. San Francisco right behind them at 4.8. Any interest in the bats here for you?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to do quite a bit of playing against Andrew Abbott today. I can get some really good prices still in this Giants lineup. Great American Ballpark's obviously a great place to hit. Andrew Abbott, I plan it. He's not going to be somebody that I'm targeting anyway, because I'm going to go with Snell and Burns and some Strider and maybe down low with some Lorenzen. So, yeah, I'm going to stack up some of these San Francisco hitters for sure. I'm going to go – I know there's some pinch hit risk in there. There always is. So they have Slater at the top today. And how hot is Wilmer Flores right now? I mean, the guy is just all over the base paths. I'm going to play some Giants. The Reds are kind of out of my price range. I do like them. What did Saber have their ownership at? I think Cincinnati's going to have some ownership today. Maybe not too much. I think so. Saber's showing the highest owned offenses for me. They're showing Milwaukee, Detroit, San Diego. I'm not going to go to the Cincinnati side of this game, but I am going to go to the San Francisco side and try and play against Abbott a little bit.
All right. DC, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think the most interesting bats here are the San Francisco righties with power, which is frankly most of the righties in their lineup. Andrew Abbott's been really good here in this rookie season. He's going to give up a lot of home runs to right-handed bats. If you look at the numbers, like the lowest ground ball percentage of any pitcher in baseball to the opposite hand. So he's getting like 18, 19% ground balls to right-handed hitters. He's a lefty himself, especially in that park. Those are going to start turning into home runs. They already have a little bit. I think he's at like 1.6 home runs. Yeah, 1.67 home runs to righties on the year. Given his low ground ball rate, I think that number probably ends up over 2 by the end of the year. So these Giants right-handed power bats, Flores has got to be top of the list given how hot he's been. Obviously, some pinch hit risk for Slater. I think they'll leave Flores in there just given how he's swinging the bat. I like Patrick Bailey a lot. He's hitting cleanup, decently priced catcher. He crushes lefties. Luis Matos is cheap. David Villar has a long history of hitting lefties well. So I do like these the power from the Giants side, from the right side. I'm not on the Reds. I think Cobb does enough here to kind of keep them in check. They've kind of cooled off, too, coming out of the break a little bit. I don't think they're bad plays by any means, but I'll be going elsewhere. Cobb, pretty good pitcher. I saw someone mention him, potentially playing him at 7,400 on DraftKings. I don't think that's the craziest option given how high the strikeout rate for the Reds has been recently. I didn't quite get there myself, but yeah, I don't mind the Cobb play and didn't end up on much Cincinnati myself.
Yeah, I think Cobb is fine. It's just a matter of the other pitchers here on the slate that I'm a little bit more interested in that I think might have a bit of a higher ceiling. We'll stay with you, DC. I know you're interested in Corbin Burns. Any interest in Taijuan Walker? Any interest in bats in Philadelphia? Where like a lot of other spots, it's going to be nice and warm this afternoon.
Yeah, Walker against the Brewers. Just kind of avoiding both sides of this one. I really didn't have much interest in Taijuan Walker, but can say the same thing about the Brewers side. So I'll be kind of hoping for just a mediocre performance out of Walker. Maybe Brewers put up 3 or 4 runs. Kind of what I expect. I don't really play the Brewers often at all. So, maybe a blind spot for me, but really didn't have much interest in them today. Yeah, obviously I like Corbin Burnes here quite a bit, given how good he looked in his last start. But it's just one start, and it's not like he's been infallible this year, right? He has had some rough outings. If he doesn't have it today, the Phillies do have the bats to punish him. Obviously, a bunch of power from the left side, and then you've got good right-handed hitters as well. Not hard to line up with Turner and Castellanos. JT, sounds like you are somewhat interested in the Phillies as a contrarian stack. I get it, just given the upside that they have. I do lean the Burnes side, but I get the Phillies side. I definitely, even though I like Burnes more than Walker, if I had to stack up one of these teams, it would definitely be the Phillies over the Brewers. So, just one of those things where I think the Phillies offense has way more upside to me, even if they are also a risk to completely bust. But it's not really a concern when you're talking GPPs, right? You're chasing upside with offense, not really worried about the bust percentage, whatever.
You're looking for the team that has the outlier performance, right?
Right.
The team that this year, right, it seems like almost every slate, there's a team that goes 11, 12, 13 runs.
Yep.
You want that team in your lineup. You want to have some of that team in your GPP mix.
The Phillies way more likely to do that than the Brewers, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
Stevers, thoughts on this game?
So now you guys got me worried about playing Corbin Burnes because, like you said, this might be one of those outlier performances that the Phillies throw up a huge number. They have the bats to do it, absolutely. I looked at the lineup again. I think they got 6 lefties in this lineup today. They got hitters 6 through 9. They got 4 hitters in the bottom of the lineup that are left-handed. And we all know about the power up top, right? The power up top is Schwarber, Turner, Castellanos, Harper. I mean, they can all hit it out of the yard. So maybe I'll change my take on Corbin Burnes today. I was pretty high on him, but maybe it's not the spot for him. I'm definitely not playing Milwaukee. They're going to be chalky today from what I see in the ownership. There's going to be a lot of people on them, and I don't know. I'm not somebody that really likes to target against Taijuan Walker. I'm not going to pitch him. I'm not crazy about him, but nothing about Milwaukee scares me. I mean, you have Owen Miller hitting in your 4-hole. I mean, Owen Miller really couldn't keep a job in Cleveland, and we all know about Cleveland's lineup. I mean, it's nothing special. I mean, although Owen Miller has been having a pretty good year, I mean, and he's still progressing. I think he's a good player, but nothing about this lineup scares me. I don't know why they're going to be chalky today. Maybe, I don't know, maybe people know something I don't know about Taijuan Walker, but I kind of stayed away from this game too. I'm hoping that it's just kind of a boring baseball game, right? Kind of a low scoring game is what I'm hoping for. Not a lot of production from these offenses. I know I said I may pivot off of Corbin Burnes, but I'm not going to. I'm going to play him. I think he's going to perform well today. We'll see. Hopefully the Phillies don't go off like that, but I'm definitely not going to be in Milwaukee. And like you guys said, if I had to stack one of these two teams, it would definitely be Philadelphia versus rather than Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think Milwaukee, 2 reasons. One, they're cheap, and people see that Walker has had 2 relatively poor starts in a row after a string of really 6 or 7 very solid ones.
Yeah.
However, his last 2 against the Padres and against the Rays. Now he gets the swing-happy Brewers at home. So I like a little bit of Walker in my lineup. Stevers, will stay with you, and we'll move on to Toronto, a park that, even though they moved the fences in, still just isn't as exciting offensively. We don't see a lot of eruptions out of the stadium. I've said that I will have some Snell. I will also have some Toronto just because of the fact that his numbers suggest he's going to have a bad outing here in one of these upcoming starts. Where do you land on this game, Padres, Blue Jays?
I won't have any Blue Jays bats. Maybe a cheaper one-off toward the bottom of their lineup. I'm definitely going to make sure it's a right-hander. They've been so bad against left-handed pitching. Toronto has, and I won't. And I really like Blake Snell today, so that Toronto just, I don't know. Until I see it, they just don't scare me. I mean, I just haven't seen, nobody's seen a lot of production from them, so I won't be there. Snell has been. I've really liked Blake Snell today. I know I've said that about 10 times today, but in the last month, his xFIP is down near 2. He's got a 33% K rate. The walks are a little bit concerning. I will have Padres today. I will have some of that. Chris Bassitt isn't my favorite pitcher to target. I do like him, but not in this spot. I don't. I think the Padres are starting to heat up, and Bassitt is a guy that I don't. He's not going to have much ownership, that's for sure. There's just some really good pitching on this slate, but Bassitt got beat up by Detroit in a good pitcher's ballpark in Detroit a couple of weeks ago. He didn't fare too well against the White Sox before that. I definitely will have some Padres today. I will have next to no Blue Jays.
All right, fair enough. We'll move to DC and let DC talk about the Padres and the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think if you're playing a lot of lineups, the Snell versus Blue Jays, I would want both sides of it, right? I think Snell's got as much upside as anybody on the slate. Just can't deny it, given how well he's pitched this year. Blue Jays haven't hit lefties well, despite a lineup that it looks like it should hit lefties, right? All these righties at the top of the lineup, some of them whom have a very good history against left-handed pitching. But, yeah, it just hasn't come through. Snell's obviously capable of, double-digit strikeout game, 30-plus fantasy point performance. That's what he's been putting up game after game. So, of course, that's in play here. I think Snell's a good play. On the other hand, it could go as fast as Snell was able to figure it out. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a hiccup here at some point. Seems like a decent spot for it. Early game, right-handed heavy lineup. They've got some speed in that lineup as well. You can run a little bit on Blake Snell. So I don't hate the Blue Jays as a contrarian stack if you're playing multiple lineups. I didn't really find myself interested in Bassitt. He's just been kind of mediocre. That's just who I think he is personally. Not a high strikeout guy. Padres have been swinging the bats a little bit better. But I also wasn't super interested in stacking up against Chris Bassitt myself. So, yeah, I don't have a ton of this game, but it is the Padres. Well, Blake Snell is a pitcher, kind of like the Burns situation. I think Snell is the play if you're looking at a pitcher in this game. But I think the Blue Jays are also, to some extent, the more exciting stack, especially – I assume the Padres will end up higher owned than the Blue Jays, despite a team total that's close to the same. I think the Blue Jays might be the higher upside team here, even though Blake Snell's been awesome lately.
All right, we'll stick with you. Chicago White Sox at the New York Mets. Michael Kopech against Jose Quintana. Quintana making his first start of the season, coming off the IL. Looks like he's probably about as stretched out as he's going to get to start the season. And then Kopech has just been very volatile all season long. He's had some great starts, and he's had some absolutely terrible starts. Very, very wild of late. Mets are going to be popular. It looks like they're going to be the most popular stack on the slate as of right now. Where do you stand, the White Sox at the Mets?
Yeah, I like both sides of this game, particularly the Mets side. You mentioned they'll be one of the most popular stacks on the slate. That's kind of unfortunate, but I'm not moving off the Mets today. Kopech has been a target of mine for a lot of the season. He's been more up and down probably than any pitcher in baseball. But right now he's on one of the downswings. Last 4 starts for Michael Kopech, 20 walks compared to 12 strikeouts, which is about as bad as you're ever going to see, especially the walk part of that. He's also given up a ton of home runs this year. He's got a top or bottom 10% home run rate, whichever term you want to use, but giving up a ton of home runs is the point. And like those last before his last start, the three starts before that, where he gave up 16 walks in 3 starts. Then he goes on the IL over the All-Star break, right? He comes back against Atlanta, and he's even worse. He can't find the zone. 4 walks in 0.2 innings. Gave up a home run there as well. Obviously, a complete disaster start. The velocity was down, even though he only threw 2/3 of an innings, right? And was like trying to throw as hard as he could to get out of that inning. He just didn't have it. There's a good chance Kopech is still just pitching hurt, pitching not himself. If you look at like the zone rate, the strike percentage over the last 3 starts, especially below 50% in all 3 starts, and in the Atlanta start down at 28%, didn't miss any bats. I mean, it's just been absolutely brutal for Kopech, who's a great guy to start anyway, given the power. He's the second easiest pitcher to run on in baseball behind Noah Syndergaard. So guys like Nimmo, Pham, Lindor, I think they'll all be off to the races if they get a chance in this one. So yeah, absolutely love the Mets. Think they're going to do some serious damage here against Kopech. My one question, Pete Alonso has been brutal ever since, I think it was Charlie Morton who hit him on the wrist. And they were thinking he was going to miss like perhaps a long time with the bone bruise, if you remember. And then he came back faster than anybody expected and has done almost nothing since then. So he's kind of the question mark for me. I do have him in my lineups right now, but he's the one I'm a little bit worried about. I don't know if you guys have a Pete Alonso take for me. I haven't actually watched that much Mets recently, so I'm not sure exactly how he's looked at the plate, but certainly the numbers look ugly. And then the White Sox, I think, look good here too. I mean, Quintana, not a guy you need to avoid. He does give up right-handed power, and he's making his first start of the year here. That's a guy I want to target against with guys like Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, and Jake Berger, particularly the heart of that White Sox lineup looks good to me against Quintana. So I'll be hoping for runs here in this game between the White Sox and the Mets.
Yeah, no strong Alonso take. Wasn't particularly good in the home run derby and really has fallen off since that hit by pitch. Stevers, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I like both sides of this game too. So, I mean, Michael Kopech has just been awful, right? His last 4 starts, he hasn't made it past 4 1/3. In his last 12 2/3 innings, he has 20 walks. The Mets are going to be chalky today. I'm with you on that. Saber has them at high ownership, but I like the bats on both sides of this game. There are 4 right-handers right in the middle of the White Sox lineup that I'm going to look to, and they are Tim Anderson, Robert, Eloy Jimenez, and Jake Berger. I'm going to live in there for some mini stacks. Probably get Tim Anderson. I know he hasn't impressed too much, but I do like him today. Yeah, I'm on both sides of this game for sure. Not much more to say other than that.
Same here. I think you can play both sides of that game. Stevers, we'll stay with you. Detroit, Kansas City. We've expressed, DC and I, our love for Michael Lorenzen today, which means we're going to, at least for me, I'm not going to have much, if any, Kansas City. I will have a couple of Detroit stacks. Zach Greinke returns from the injured list, and the bullpen behind him is getting weaker as they trade these pieces away. Although, again, Detroit not going to be in my top exposures. Thoughts on this game?
So Saber has Detroit as with some decent ownership, and maybe I'm biased because both of these teams are in the AL Central, but I hate both of these teams. These are bad baseball teams, guys. I get to watch them all the time. I mean, they play the Tribe 20 times a year. I get to see a lot of them, and these are just bad baseball teams. I don't play them a lot. I'm not playing them today. I have no interest in Zach Greinke, and I know I have read some things out there that there is some interest in Zach Greinke today, and I just have none. I do like your guys' take on Michael Lorenzen, and I do really like the fact that Bobby Witt Jr. is not in the lineup, so I will have some of him, but it's short and sweet for me. I just think these are bad baseball teams, and I won't have any of these bats.
Fair enough. DC.
Yeah, I'm not going to the offenses here. Obviously, like Lorenzen, just think he's a misprice, frankly, on DraftKings. And I don't know. He's going to be owned, but with the good options up top, I don't think it's going to be crazy for Michael Lorenzen. So he will be on my main DraftKings team, not going to the Tigers, and definitely not going to Zach Greinke. So, yeah, short and sweet for me on this one.
Lorenzen is on my main team as well. He's in my core over at Run Pure Sports, runpuresports.com. One more game. I think we're going to be quickly through this one. Then we'll do some stacks, and we'll get on out of here. Let you guys go and make your lineups and smash today, DC. We've got the Twins, who have been hot. We have Pablo Lopez coming off a down start against the A's. George Kirby in Seattle. Be a little bit warmish, especially for Seattle. For me personally, I'm going to go back to having some Twins here because they seem like they're getting hot right now, and I want to ride that hot streak. Means I'll be off George Kirby, and I will have Pablo Lopez. Your thoughts here?
Pretty much the same page as me. I like Lopez quite a bit. No George Kirby for me. I don't think he's a terrible play by any means, but I didn't get there today myself. Definitely like Corbin Burns more in that same price range on DraftKings. And then, the Twins, I think they make sense. I mean, they are dirt cheap. Swinging the bats well. Look at their top four. Edward Julian, who's been just about as hot as anybody, kind of quietly. He's 3,100. Alex Kirilloff is 2,200, heating up a little bit. Solano, Matt Wallner, who's got decent power. I know he's kind of an unknown name, but he can do damage. He's stone minimum, 2K on DraftKings. So, listen, if you want to go two expensive pitchers, right? If you want Strider and Pablo Lopez, this twin stack makes a lot of sense with them. Kirby, obviously a good pitcher, but can be home run prone to the lefties, which is 3 of the 4 bats up there that we talked about. Throws a ton of strikes. He attacks the strike zone. I think that's good for guys like Julian Kirilloff, who are patient hitters, but they do have power, and they can hurt you if you come into the zone against them, which Kirby will do. So, Twins make sense to me. I've got them sprinkled in my lineups a little bit, and then I definitely prefer the Lopez side of the pitching matchup here.
All right, Stevers, thoughts on this game, the last one on the slate?
Yeah, the Minnesota bats are intriguing. Haven't said that much this year because they are just, they're rough to play. They strike out a lot. I like targeting pitchers against them a lot. I wonder why Max Kepler's not in the lineup today. The guy's got 3 multi-hit games in a row. He's got 2 home runs in there. I got on him at the right time for sure. I wish he was in the lineup today. But I won't have much of this game. I'll have Pablo Lopez for sure. There's a lot of swing and miss in the Seattle lineup. So I won't be there. There's nothing really to be impressed by Seattle today against Lopez. So Minnesota's intriguing, but this is just another game that I just won't have a lot of. There's just other spots that I like too much.
All righty, Stevers, who are your top stacks, and give us your play of the day?
All right, so top stacks. My favorite stack is gonna be the Padres. I'm gonna play against Chris Bassett today pretty heavily. I'm gonna be overweight on Padres stacks. I'm not crazy about the Mets ownership. They are gonna be high owned, but Michael Kopech is just bad. Sometimes I watch this guy pitch and it looks like he's on Adderall on the mound. He's shaking and he looks like he has ADHD or something. Like the guy's and his advanced numbers are terrible. I mean, his WOBA was like 1,600 or something like that. His never mind. I was looking at something different, but I'm going to play. So my top stacks are Padres, Mets, and Giants are where I'm going. Those are my top 3. And then you wanted play of the day?
Quickly.
You got it. I wish I could give it to you quickly.
All right, we'll come back to you.
No, it's okay. Let's go with Patrick Bailey. I'm going to go with Patrick Bailey. I'm going to play a lot of Giants today, and I do like playing against. He's going to hit right-handed today against Andrew Abbott. So give me Patrick Bailey as the play today.
All right, Patrick Bailey. I am going to go Braves, Phillies, Blue Jays contrarian, and Matt Olson is going to break out in a big way today. DC, stacks and play of the day.
Yeah, Mets by far my number 1. They'll be on both my main teams. I do like the other side of that game as well with the Chicago White Sox. And then third stack, I will go back to the Braves. So White Sox 1, White Sox 2, Braves 3. Play of the day is going to be Jake Berger for the White Sox.
Excellent. White Sox, Mets, Braves. That's it for us, guys. Get on over runpuresports.com. Hit the like button. Good luck in your contest today.